faces, maybe some of the people the fans aren't familiar with, and just kind of what you guys are seeing? There's a lot of good guys out there.
Yeah, as we go right now, when you integrate a lot of new people into the organization, you're trying to get them comfortable in our routines, and they've done a great job of sort of getting used to that, comfortable with that. Specifically on defense, we've gotten our new guys most of them came in January, so they were able to, get a winter conditioning with the strength staff. They were able to go through spring balls. They've had summer. We had about 6 new freshmen that came in June, and we had 5 or 6 that had come in mid-year. So the mid-year freshmen were able to make the transition easier for the June freshmen. So it's been a very seamless transition. The guys, they really like each other. They've sort of grown with each other. It's been a good mix of new guys, guys that have been in the system, but we're still sort of, if you look at it across the board on defense, we're probably about, I don't know the exact numbers, probably 1/3 guys that have been in the program, maybe closer to 50%, but then 50% or maybe even more when you talk about transfers, new freshmen. So there's a lot of growing in that system-wise. You're trying to build scars, and scabs as fast as you can, because you're going to touch the stove. You're going to make mistakes, and that's what camp's for. We need all of these days in camp to get those guys up to speed and understand why we do what we do, because we make little checks within the system for reasons. And I think I probably did not do a good enough job last year with that, especially when you're trying to integrate transfers, and maybe you take for granted that they've had 1,000, 1,500 snaps, but they haven't had 1,500 snaps in your system. And so the checks, the way other systems saw it might have been different, and so you have to kind of rewire the way they're thinking so it fits within our scheme. But they've done a great job of it. The older guys have done a great job of trying to help coach up the new guys. I think we're progressing, but we're going to need every practice we can get.
Coach, you guys in Atlanta indicated y'all probably play a little more 4 down on the defensive line. How do the new guys fit into that? And is there a steep learning curve if you're trying to do more even fronts?
Yeah, I think in this day and age in college football, you've got to be multiple. And we've been multiple in the past. I know, so many people think of us, as a 3-down team. But even for the last, 3 years, if you turn on the tape and you crank the numbers, you realize how sort of balanced we are. The reality of the situation is you just have to figure out, we've got a whole bunch of pieces on the table right now, and we just have to piece them together. And we have to figure out, hey, what do the new guys do best? What are they comfortable with? And maybe at times, especially, again, I look back to last year, maybe we tried to, force too many things, the round, peg into a square, or whatever it is, the square peg into a round hole. We've got to tailor around what the guys can do and what they can do well, what they can execute fast. Now, they also have to learn, and our system is our system, and it's been really successful, but we as coaches have to adapt to put them in the best situation.
Coach, I'm from Corbin. You always ask about Jacob Smith down there. How's he doing?
Well, they got both. They got Gerard and Jacob, and so, we're excited about those guys, both of them, taking a step forward this year. Gerard, was able to play, I think, in every game last year, had some special teams. Jacob, coming out of high school, had to get some, had an off-season surgery coming out of high school. So by the time he was healthy and cleared, he was able to play some down the stretch, but retain that red shirt. But both guys, we're excited about their future. We need them to take a step this year. They're locked in. They've worked really hard. Their bodies look good. But again, for every one of our guys right now, it's about, hey, how do we progress through camp? And then it's about us as coaches finding ways to put them in position to be successful.
Ray, do you feel like you all are ahead as opposed to this time last year, since you actually kind of had bodies up front during spring practice as opposed to we didn't have last year?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question. Yes, because we had bodies, we were able to have a full spring ball. What you're able to do in summer nowadays with players, I think helps move you ahead. So, yes, do I think that we're ahead in terms of schematically? Probably. But with that is what we just talked about. When you have several new players that you're sort of incorporating through the defense, you don't necessarily have the built-in reps that maybe teams that we've had in the past have had. And so maybe we didn't have spring ball the same way intensity-wise. I think we're ahead probably physicality-wise, cohesive unit-wise, but maybe not from experience reps within the system.
Defense that concerns you at this point, like maybe the secondary, the pass rush, is there any that concerns you at this moment? It's early.
Yeah, it's early. Today will be our first day we put pads on, so to really see where we stand on that. To say concern, that's a strong word. I don't say that there's anything that I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is that we eliminate the big plays that we gave up last year. And that came in both. When you go back and you look at last year's film, it wasn't just the run game, it wasn't just the pass game. Now, down the stretch, I thought it was in the run game specifically is where things changed. The first 6 games we were, what we had been the year before in terms of stopping the run. And down the stretch, the last 6 was completely unacceptable. And so that, until we go out on the field and we prove that we can get back to where we are, that will always be sort of lingering. That is a concern. But I think this group is wired right. I think there's depth across the defense. Maybe, again, not the experience within the system, but there's multiple pieces. So I think it gives us the chance to withstand, the natural attrition that happens within a football season. But yeah, that we sit up here on August 1st, and I think it wasn't in this meeting, but it was sometime in preseason. You really don't know what you have until you hit the middle of the season. That's the reality of it, because that's when attrition happens. That's when bad things in the season and the roller coaster starts to happen. And now you figure out how mentally and physically and emotionally tough you are. And we were not that enough last year, mid-season. We were able to plug holes and cracks that had showed up early in the season, but they're going to get exposed as the season goes along. And so the idea is to limit or eliminate those cracks here early so they don't show up late.
You see leadership on this defense, on this football team? You see leadership this year?
Yeah, I think there's a collective leadership. I think it's not necessarily a singular person that I can look to. I think there are some really strong influencers in that locker room. But even yesterday in practice, every time we come off the sideline, it's a new voice talking, hey, let's go, guys. Let's break it down. Let's do this, which is good, because when it's a singular voice, if that voice gets heard or that voice isn't in the huddle, who do you lean on? I think collectively they're leaning into each other, and they're going to be stronger that way. But we've got guys that have been in the system, the Alex Faris, the Ty Bryants, the David Rainers. I don't want to, I hate doing this because then you leave somebody out. And again, I think collectively they lean on each other. And when a guy's having a down day, it doesn't pull everybody down. The rest of them rally to lift that one up, right? Because here's the reality of it. In this day and age, in the media age, these young men, it doesn't matter whether they're your senior leader, it is hard to stay positive, uplifted every single day. They have a lot more off the field that they have to deal with than young men in the past. I never had to deal with what they have to deal with on a daily basis, and I get it. You know, there's a lot of pressure because everybody understands that they get compensated, but they're still 18 to 22-year-olds that are dealing with a lot of stuff off the field, personal issues they have to deal with, the pressure of succeeding, feeling the weight of the world. They want to do right. The 90-something% in that locker room, all they want to do is right. They just want to please you as a coach. They want to please their family. They want to please the fan base. They want to do right. And we've all been there. Like, when you feel that kind of pressure, it's hard to execute at a high level. And so part of our job as coaches is just to try to clear their mind so they can have fun and enjoy, and that's when they're going to play their best out on the field. And so when we put all those guys and they know each other and they fight for each other and they know the moods and the attitudes, and like, man, if he's down, like something's bothering him. They get 4 or 5 guys come up, coaches come up, hey, what's wrong, man? If you need something, it's all good. And that's what we've got to lean into. You know, the X's and O's will take care of itself. The strength staff does an unbelievable job getting our guys prepared, you know, in terms of being physically ready. But we've got to have them mentally and emotionally ready. Because it is a freaking grind of a season.
You talked about the depth earlier. The second-year guys, your Quay Scotts, Gerard Nichols, or Gerard, it's a big offseason if you get some flashes. So what do you have to do to make sure that the light bulbs turn on where they can play a more impactful role this fall?
I mean, I said it when we signed them. I thought last year's class has a chance to be one of the most impactful defensive classes that maybe have ever come through this program. And we still feel that. Like, but the big thing is, and I was just talking with the defensive staff yesterday, is you get so excited about some of those young names that you talked about, and there's a lot more, and the Antoine Smiths and the Jaden Smiths, and, you know, we've already talked about this. We signed 5 of the Smith. If you just say Smith, there's going to be a good chance that you hit one of them. Is not to say, hey, listen, treat them like a 50-year senior and pour the whole deal. Like, they're each going to have an impactful role in pieces. And that's where, like I said, if I took this off, we've got a whole bunch of pieces that can make a really cool puzzle, right? But in years past, we would count on 6, 7, 8 guys, and they would play 75% of the snaps, and we'd lean in. That's not what this group's going to be. This group is, hey, listen, you get 30 or 40 snaps and you go all out in your package, but then we're going to have somebody else take 30 or 40 more, or 15 snaps here. This is going to have to be a collective defense. You know, 20 guys are going to have to play, 20-plus guys are going to have to play on any given day. This isn't going to be where it's, hey, it's, you know, you're playing 13, 14, 15 guys on defense.
And Class 1 CO?
Brad, I wanted to ask, what goes into you choosing who's going to wear the helmet with the headset, or, you know, to get the calls in, and how seamless or how challenging was that last year, just making sure everybody was aligned for the calls out?
Yes, that is a great question in terms of who gets it. I think everybody's philosophy is a little bit different. I like the linebacker to have one of the inside linebackers to have it. You know, there was thought at some point last year that, you know, Zion had walked up to me. He's like, Coach, put it in mine. I'll get everything set. Like, I'll line them up. Like, and that was just Z. Like, Z wanted it all. But if you give it to an inside backer, he can talk to the front. He can communicate a little bit with the secondary. Like, so as far as that, like, I would anticipate the green dot being on one of those inside guys, whether it be, Davin or Alex, and again, you're talking about two guys that are seniors, like you feel comfortable, like they're vocal. Alex is coming to his own in terms of, being vocal. So I'm excited about his progress. But yeah, you like anything else, you go through growing pains. We had a scenario last year where, you make the call, you push the button, so it gets signaled in, and I'm talking to that. Well, the player that has it in his headset sometimes doesn't look. He's like, well, I'm getting it verbally, so I don't look at the sign. Well, in the midst of loud crowd noise and all that, he thought I said something different, so he played a different call versus what the other 10 guys got signaled. And so then it was, hey, listen, you have to look over. Those are learning moments. Those are learning moments. Like you can verbally listen to me, but you have to look at the sign and confirm what I just said was with the sign. And so, I think we've gotten through that through practice. I put it in multiple guys in practice so they can all get used to it. Because if one of the guys gets hurt, I don't want the first time they hear, I hear dead people, right? Like you hear voices in your head on game day. So they get used to it in practice, but only one guy gets it on the field.
Okay, folks, thank you very much. You'll have Coach Hammond here momentarily.